Hello, I'm Garnet, this is Eggs. Stardust Crusaders is part 3 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, an ongoing supernatural horror shounen made by Hirohiko Araki, with part 3 starting in 1989. A lot of people skip parts 1 and 2 and go straight to this part. Shame on them. Shame the part skippers. You don't even know what Dio did. You never even met Joseph. Okay, get out of here. In 1988, about 49 years after the end of Battle Tendency, a much older Joseph Joestar travels to Japan after finding out that his grandson, Jotaro Kujo, also known as JoJo except not really, they call him Jotaro, is shut in a jail cell and refuses to come back out. Like, the police are trying to get him to go home with his mom. And he's just like, nope, can't. I'm possessed, bitch. Turns out what he thinks is some kind of demonic possession is actually a newly awakened power called a stand, because it stands next to you. And everyone who has one just knows to call it that no matter where they're from. A stand is the manifestation of its user's soul, and they are invisible to everyone except for other stand users. Stand users tend to be drawn to each other even when they don't know that the other person is also a stand user. So that's how all of these people end up meeting each other, even though it's like a rare thing. Each stand has a unique and usually very unexpected ability. They don't all do the same thing. That's a simple way to put it. And typically, stands don't talk, not by themselves, but the user can talk through them. Usually, that's not always the case. How exactly someone gets a stand isn't completely explained until part 4. I guess it's still not even completely explained at that point, but it's explained a little bit more. In part 4, there are arrows that if they stab you, you either get a stand or you die. But Avdol was born with a stand, so was Kakyoin, I think Polnareff too. So it can just happen by itself for some reason. I'll explain why the Joestars have their stands in a moment. This is the first part to have stands. It more or less replaces the Haman power for the rest of the series so far. As of this recording, there are 9 parts and there are still stands. So Joseph still has Haman, but he doesn't do a whole lot with it, and he doesn't try to teach it to anyone else, even though that could still be useful in case there are more vampires in Pillar Man, which there are more vampires in this part. And like, yeah, the vampires have stands now, but it wouldn't hurt to have both a stand and Haman. Like, right? That's very frustrating to me. Joseph brought his friend Avdol with him, who helps him calm down Jotaro by fighting him with his own stand, Magician's Red, and explains that he's not possessed. Jotaro's stand isn't named right away, but it will be given the name Star Platinum by Avdol because that's the tarot card he pulled, the star. Stands will be named after tarot cards for a while, and then they'll be named after Egyptian gods, and then they'll all be musical references, just like Araki has been doing for characters this whole time. I prefer the music references, actually, for names. They're really fun. Joseph explains to Jotaro that 4 years ago, an empty coffin was found all alone on an abandoned ship, which means Dio is back. He ate all those guys. His coffin was fished out of the ocean, even though Erina already sailed away in his coffin before. So where did he get this one? Did he just steal some other dead guy's coffin from the bottom of the ocean? And then why didn't he just swim up if he could do that? Maybe vampires can't swim, maybe they sink. Vampires and water don't usually get along, so that would make sense. But then the coffin wouldn't be dry on the inside. So there must have been a spare on the ship. That's the only way this could work. He brought 2 coffins. Joseph uses his own stand, Hermit Purple, to smash a camera and get a picture of Dio, who has taken the body of Jonathan. Dio getting a stand while using Jonathan's body triggered the whole Joestar bloodline getting their own stands. Because yeah, if you don't remember, Dio was just ahead at the end of part 1. Dio could feel that he was being watched through Joseph's stand, which, by the way, apparently Dio can also use Hermit Purple. It looks like the same exact stand. Dio has a separate stand that isn't Hermit Purple, the world, but he uses Hermit, it's the exact looking stand. He uses it twice, and that is never brought up again. They don't talk about it. What? So Dio sends one of his mind-controlled henchmen, Noriaki Kakyoin, to attack them, and weird story short, he joins the party. Shortly after, it turns out that Holly also has her own stand, but since she has no fighting spirit, it's killing her. The solution for this, for some reason, is to kill Dio. So the group sets off to Egypt because there was an Egyptian fly in the picture with Dio. Okay, and that's all I'm explaining the story for a bit here. Alright, characters. Jotaro Kujo, our new protagonist, a 17-year-old going on 40. He used to be a good kid, but now he calls his sweet, precious mom, Holly, a bitch, and it's not explained why he turned out like that. I guess he was just annoyed by her so much. Jotaro doesn't say much in general. He doesn't do a whole lot either besides punching the crap out of people, so he's supposed to be like the cool, silent type, but I'm sorry, he's not my favorite JoJo, since that's kind of just uninteresting to me. Star Platinum is a strong and fast close-range stand with a humanoid appearance. He mostly punches. Some other stuff happens, but we can't get into that. Joseph Joestar, the protagonist from part 2. His stand isn't great for fighting, and his Haman ain't what it used to be, but he's still got the most vampire experience out of anyone, and he's a very fun character. I'm glad that he was around for part 3. He's a grandpa now! It is great how Jotaro acts like his grandpa doesn't know anything, can't help him in the beginning. Like, how do you think he got that hand? He sent an ultimate being into space. Which, by the way, that's never brought up again. We just don't talk about Pillar Men anymore, I guess. I don't know if Jotaro even knows that that happened or not. I don't know if his mom knows that that happened. I would tell my kids and grandkids if I did that. I don't even think Dio knows that something existed that could have eaten him. He missed that completely while at the bottom of the ocean. Hermit Purple is a vine stand that can gather information from far away. He also uses it to grab onto things. Holly Kujo, Joseph's daughter and Jotaro's mom. She dotes on her son even while he's insulting her. She married a Japanese jazz musician who you're never going to see because he's always away on tour. Dude has no idea that his wife is dying while his grandson is vampire hunting in Egypt. Her stand never gets a name, and it seems like it could be similar to Joseph's since it's like vines. It's like green vines with like berries on it. I don't know what Holly looks like, but that's her name, so I'm thinking I'll have to pull up whatever that looks like. It's a plant. Muhammad Abdul, a friend of Joseph's who met Dio 4 months before meeting Jotaro, but he already knew Joseph by that point, which makes me wonder when exactly they met and how much he knew, because he already knew about Dio and he didn't want to mess with that dude. So he's from Egypt, so he's really knowledgeable on the locations they have to travel through to find Dio. He's a fortune teller, so that's why he even had tarot cards, in case you were wondering about that. Magician's Red is a humanoid stand with a bird head and can produce and control fire, which a fire stand wouldn't usually be all that interesting to me. But I like that it's a bird. Noriaki Kakyoin. The first person Dio sends to fight the Joestars winds up being Jotaro's best friend. He likes cherries. There's a cat in heat outside. Hierophant Green is a humanoid long-distance stand that is very stretchy and can shoot emeralds. Jean-Pierre Polnareff. Best boy. I love him so much. This is my favorite character in part 3. He is so funny. And he's another enemy turned ally, just like Kakyoin, and he's looking for the man with 2 right hands who murdered his sister. So he's got to check out your hands just to be sure. Silver Chariot is a fast, close-range humanoid stand in a suit of armor that wields a rapier. It's very cool. Iggy, a dog with a stand. He likes eating coffee flavored gum. I think that would be very bad for a dog, especially if they like flavor it with like actual caffeine or something. I don't know. I've never had coffee flavored gum. I don't know how they would make that, but that doesn't sound good. Takes a moment for him to learn to cooperate with the group. The Fool is definitely not a humanoid stand. What is that? Whatever it is, Iggy uses it to create and control sand. Dio, our main villain, returning from part 1. Completely evil. This guy was he did some bad stuff in part 1 and he's back again. An immortal vampire trying to end the Joestar bloodline. There's a lot of things he used to do that he doesn't do in this part, and some new things that he does as well. He doesn't use Space Ripper Stingy Eyes anymore. What a shame. He doesn't make a bunch of zombies either, and like, yeah, those would probably be killed pretty easily. And he wouldn't be able to have them attack in the daytime like all the stand users can. But they'd still be a nuisance. If I were a villain, that'd be a good enough reason to make a few. I'd be throwing everything at him. The World is a strong and fast, close-range stand with a humanoid appearance. I won't tell you what exactly it does, because finding that out was an important part of the plot further in. But it's a scary one for someone like Dio to have his hands on, okay? And lots and lots and lots of other characters. There's so many characters in this part. Most of the characters are villain of the week types. They show up, they get beat, they're done. And this is a long part compared to the previous two. More chapters than both of them put together, actually, so there's a lot of villains, but a few of them are a little more impactful than that to me. So the most noteworthy one on my mind is, of course, Whole Horse. He's my favorite out of any of the villain characters for sure. His stand is just a gun. Art. Still very bulky boys here. Slowly but surely, we're getting a little slimmer as we go, but they still got all the, my goodness. I read the colored version and I skimmed through the original for this review. I love Araki's art either way. It's so good, but it is easier to tell what's happening in the colored version, especially with the stands. Because the stands being transparent and like ghost light can be confusing in black and white. I'm gonna say that for like every part. This part has some of my favorite character and stand designs. Araki went ham on the hearts. I love the love heart shape so much. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. My favorite stand design has to be Atom, if that's how you say that. That thing looks crazy. That's so many hearts. What the And I absolutely do own a pair of Polnareff's earrings in real life. Like, that was an absolutely necessary purchase. There's still a lot of freaky and gruesome moments. Most of it doesn't freak me out as bad as the first two parts, but that might be just because I got more used to it. I don't think there's actually like less. But the flesh buds that Dio puts in some of his followers, but not all of them apparently. I'm really confused about that. But he put them in like Kakyoin and Polnareff and whoever else. Those things are so gross. When they burrow under someone's skin, it's not okay. It's not okay at all. Oh. No. There's also a moment where like a sailor gets a hook through the back of his face and lift up. Do I recommend? Of course I can't do that. Does it sound like I wouldn't recommend this? This part might stretch on a bit too long for some people, especially with the villain of the week thing going on. It's pretty long. Probably didn't need to be that long. But I was thoroughly entertained. The action is great, so many weird characters and stand abilities. Very creative fights because of that. And I like trying to figure out what all the names are referencing. There's a lot of names with all these characters to do that with. So yeah, if you've already read the first two parts anyway, what are you waiting for? Of course you should read it. And if you haven't read them, you have to read them first. Do not skip parts. Don't do it. Don't do it. that's the end of the main non-spoilery portion of the video. So anyone who doesn't want spoiled on anything past what I've already described should head out now. I'm about to just talk about I'm not even like continuing the plot in a specific order. I just talk about random crap on my mind that happens to have spoilers on it. So yeah, you should head out if you don't want that. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff if you haven't already before you go. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye. Now that they're gone, in my Phantom Blood review, I said that Dio never used his ability to combine two creatures into a chimera again, and that might still be true, but when I was watching Stardust Crusaders, because I watched it as well, I didn't just read it, I started to wonder if that's why Nukisaku, is that how you say his name? I was wondering if that's why he has a woman's face on the back of his head, because he doesn't have a stand. It's not a stand. Why is that there? Also, why would he be a vampire and not a zombie? Because it seems like, I looked it up because I wasn't sure. It seems like everyone is like categorizing him as a vampire, but I haven't seen anyone else like discuss why this would be. Since he's weak, he has no stand. Why would Dio think he's worthy of being a vampire like him instead of a zombie like everyone else he's changed before now? Vanilla Ice got to be a vampire because Dio actually trusted his ridiculously loyal ass. So I thought that was important. I thought that was kind of a big deal, but apparently not if Nukisaku freaking gets to be one. Why? Why would he? Why? Like, you get way stronger when you become a vampire, so exactly how damn weak was he as a human? But yeah, apparently you can turn someone into an actual vampire instead of a zombie without a mask. Dio never did that until this part. Maybe he didn't know how, or maybe he just didn't like anyone else enough to do that before. He had to give Vanilla Ice some of his own blood to make him into a vampire. If he were a zombie, he would have just changed from Dio sucking out his blood. Which raises the question of why didn't Joseph become a zombie or a vampire? Dio drank Joseph's blood, and Joseph died. Then later, Joseph is revived by having a blood transfusion with Dio's blood. So how is he human either way? One of those things should have done something. And clearly he is still human because, he keeps aging in part 4. He's like ancient in part 4, so I don't know if like it's like the idea that like it's his own blood that Dio had in him that he got like put back in him, and that's why he's not a vampire. But like, why didn't he turn into a zombie before that from having his blood sucked? I don't know if Dio does something in particular while he's sucking the blood to turn them into a zombie. I don't know if there's like an extra step there and he didn't want Joseph to be a zombie. I don't know what happened. Also, Dio really could have let Vanilla Ice know that he was a vampire now. Why didn't he tell him? Like, he killed Iggy and Abdul, so I wasn't exactly rooting for the guy. I was not disappointed that he died, but it's just very dumb of both Dio and Vanilla Ice. Because like, Vanilla Ice, did he not wonder how he came back to life? How exactly that worked? He didn't wonder how he wasn't dying from all the damage he was taking. I think his death was preventable. I think he died from ignorance. And I'm good, but like, it's just, I would have been devastated if Polnareff would have died there, but it's just frustrating. Every time there's a villain in something and I can think of some way for them to win, I get really frustrated that they didn't do whatever that is. Even if I don't want the villain to win, I'm just like, well, why do the... I was so disappointed that Whole Horse didn't join the Crusaders. He almost did. He was thinking about it. He was seriously considering it. He was gonna do it. So close. But then he just didn't. I know Polnareff at the point where they were, during the Enya stuff, he thought Abdul was dead. And he thought Whole Horse killed him. So he wouldn't have wanted him there, but he was fine. He's fine. Everyone else knew, so it's fine. Let him join. What about afterwards, after the reveal that Abdul was fine? Come on, let him join. I'm trying to figure out, this is not important at all, but I'm trying to figure out what exact order things happened between Dio being fished up and Jotaro thinking that he's possessed. Because we know 4 years passed in total. That's a lot of time. 4 months ago, Abdul met Dio. 3 months ago, Kakyoin met Dio. Polnareff met Dio a year ago. So all three of them already had their own stands at that point. So Dio at least must have known about stands and had control over stand users 1 year ago at least. So did he already meet Enya and get his own stand before then or around that time? Because from part 4 we know that he got his stand from Enya's arrow. Like, was there a gap between Dio getting his stand and the Joestar stand being awakened, or did it happen like simultaneously? Is Dio's stand completely new to him even though he knew about them? Or yeah, did he just have... I don't know if I missed at some point in either part 3 or 4 or anywhere where it might have been explained in any of the other parts. I don't know if I missed if it was specified when exactly Dio and Enya met, so I can like fit that in there somewhere. If you know if that was specified and I missed it, you should tell me, because I'm just wondering what he did with all the time he had before getting a stand. Because I know he had time to make some kids. Maybe that's all he did. Is there anything else I wanted to talk about? I'm sure I'll think of more things once it's too late. But for now, I can always make more JoJo videos. It's okay. For now, that's all for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!